as for the All Blacks, ruthless display from them last night, Mills.
Oh, it was awesome, wasn't it? I think given sort of what happened throughout the week and the spice that was surrounded the whole Test match. Look, the first half, they missed a couple of opportunities, but the way they came out, Goldie, in that second half, it showed that there's plenty of talent within that All Black sort of squad.
Big mistake the Wallabies did is they let themselves down early. They got in yellow card trouble. They were down to 14 men. If you were going to win at Eden Park, you needed to start well. You needed to deny the All Blacks points. And they did that, but they were desperate, JK. And they weren't in a position at any stage, up until their first try, that they had any control of this game. The All Blacks put on a dominant performance, I think, against a Wallaby team that just didn't back up.
Yeah, I think, you know, as individuals, the Wallabies will get up this morning and be really disappointed in themselves. I thought that was one of their worst performances, and they needed to start well. They didn't. There was some, like the first yellow card, they were lucky both of them wasn't a red. I'm not saying it should have been a red, but it could have been. So that's sort of ill-discipline.
But that in itself, I mean, this is a competition where a red card results in a 20 minutes. I was surprised at the time. Were you surprised, JK, that it wasn't a red card, given the fact that it would have had an effect on the game, but they would have got back to 15 men? I mean, that doesn't get any more dangerous than that, does it?
Well, every week we're talking about the inconsistencies in some way, and you know, we talk about what our game needs to do to change things up, and I think we need a centralised bunker with the same people across the Test matches so we know how they're going to make those decisions. But getting back to the Test match, if you want to beat the All Blacks, you cannot afford to make those mistakes early. Yellow cards, Mills, seem to be part of the game, especially if you saw the South African game. But the All Blacks were clinical last night. I thought they were really, really good at. I mean, if you were picking at things, if you're the coach and you have a win like that, what would you talk about on Monday or when they get back together? Probably our inability when we make some great line breaks not to finish. But that would be really, you know, really being picky, because I thought they were outstanding across the board. Good to see Artie back. I thought he was probably not as prominent from a visual point of view, but really prominent within the hard stuff, big tackles, good ball carry.
It had the risk, though. I think, you know, when you talk about that stuff that they all pick at, you know, when they miss those sort of opportunities, when they went into the break and 17-odd points up, it had the risk for the Australians to think, oh, actually, we're in this, you know, because they hadn't played, they had yellow cards. But in all, what I loved about what the All Blacks did, they came out and they were really clinical. You know, they lifted up another level and then they just applied points. And perhaps those yellow cards and all those penalties, one, it mounted, but two, it probably zapped the Australians. I mean, it really took a lot of juice out of their legs, and you know, they started to try and chase the game. And I think that's where the All Blacks sort of lifted another level.
If we're being honest, I mean, we all know it's been a bit of a rocky season for the All Blacks. 5 wins, 4 losses. Can we finally say, Jeff, they're back? Is this All Blacks team back? Was that the most complete performance of the year?
And I think that's the word you said there, complete. If you think about the performance at Ellis Park against South Africa, that put them in a position to be where they are right now. The response against Argentina and Hamilton, but it was more their ability to learn from the mistakes in Melbourne this week at Eden Park. And that's what we saw in terms of, one, dealing with pressure, accumulating points, taking your opportunities, not all of them, but creating so many that in the end, inevitably, we were able to score tries and build pressure on it, but dominate and recognise areas, Mills, that we were dominating. So all of a sudden, we got momentum up front, so we used our scrum wisely. We used it defensively wisely. Our defence was outstanding. We missed just 10 tackles in the game. So to me, it was our ability to adapt, to keep our consistency for longer periods of time, and when we had the opportunity to put them and keep them under pressure, we did that.
It was our most complete, and I think for a lot of different reasons. I mean, that win in South Africa, probably emotional, you know, a lot of emotion around that, given that, you know, what was happening off the field. Ideally, you want to get to learning those sort of lessons, you know, in the Irish series, but still be able to win. They didn't have that luxury. So then they go to South Africa, and then on the back end of some, you know, massive emotion, they win. They keep their coach. They come into, you know, Christchurch and they lose that on a real big dip. Now we're looking at a team that's really stable. They're stable enough to be able to understand what they have to learn. They know and understand also, you know, what their coach is about. And so once that pressure's off, when all that outside pressure and that off-the-field pressure's off, you're now starting to see a team that's starting to blossom and understand their game plan.
JK, I want to talk about, and I want to get your thoughts on this, about the game itself once again, in terms of time and play. We remember how long the first half was last week in Melbourne. We know there was controversy at the end, but this week, overall, in the first 40 minutes, What I did notice, and on the clock, there's an extra 3 and a bit minutes of playing time. And I noticed that often the referee was stopping the clock. The moment there was a delay, he was stopping the clock and going, you know what, I'm not going to let this run out. I'm going to stop once we get to the line out, the scrum, the restart and play. I'm going to start it again. So if you think about that, 15 minutes out of the 40 that's being played, is that a step in the right direction?
No, not enough.
Not enough? Still not enough?
A lot of wasting time around the scrum, I felt, yesterday. I mean, we've got to make a decision whether we want to be the NFL, you know, and we can all get up and go and have a hot dog because they stopped the play and, you know, it's a 40-minute game that lasts 5
Hot
and a half
dog comes
hours.
to them over there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good hot dog, though.
Or we want to create more of an aerobic game where it's end-to-end. And so for me, I still think we need to look at, you know, some time measures around scrums and line-out.
That's what it worries me. That sort of worries me, JK, because if you look at it, and the All Blacks played well. I mean, you both have been coaches, right? If you're in the opposition team, how would you try to disrupt the All Blacks? You'd slow everything down and trying to get that momentum back, hope that they don't get to that sort of next level. And that's where I think the powers that be are a little bit mixed, because one, you got a game plan somewhere else that they want to play slow and, you know, all that, but then also we down here are wanting to play something really expansive.
Yeah, and it's really getting back to what the fan wants. You know, what does the fan want? And I'm serious, like last week, 59 minutes. Serious, but we need to have time to be able to go and get a hot dog if we want, because you don't know. So you're sitting there, people are looking at their phones. Like people were complaining yesterday when the scrums were taking a bit too long. It was better, and how many Mexican waves, that's what I sort of do. You know, when you have 10 Mexican waves, everyone's bored.
Oh, yeah,
if you get one, you know, everyone's interested in the footy.
Poor you, and the sound system was pretty good.
Yeah, that was good, eh?
Awesome, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, 24 hours after the fact, there is one man's name on everyone's lips. That is Jordie Barrett, his first start in the number 12 jersey. How did he do? And have we now found our answer in the midfield? We've been talking about this for months, haven't we?
Mills
Who's the Manonu and Conrad Smith? Mills.
Mills has been right all along.
Hey.
He's been right all along. You kept saying you wanted to see him at 12. You've played in the midfield for the All Blacks. Does the perspective of what we've got available to us now, and you think about this performance against a side that didn't perform as well as they possibly could, knowing what we've got coming up in front of us, is this a permanent shift? Well,
Matt's going to give Ian Foster a big headache now, isn't it? But I mean, we look at these numbers that he did last night: 18 carries, 70%, percent gain line success. I mean, but look at the post-contact meters. This game last night really suited him, and then. The fact he came out with a bloodied head, gee, that was even more impressive last night. But
would you do it?
No way.
Don't sit on the fence here.
Would
you do it? Would you say the next big test match, and that might not be Japan, the next big test match, maybe Wales, would you start him at 12?
I would. I think now, I mean, he hasn't shied away from it. Even last night when he mentioned the fact, it's something that he's, been thinking about a lot and working away at. I think you do. I think now you've got a complete package in terms of the second 5 role. He kicks, his skill set's not his passing ability, but then those carries. When you're going backwards, you need someone just to run it straight. Well, why not?
JK wanted to see RTS, and Jordie's only got an opportunity because David Havili and Quinn are both injured.
Yeah, look, and RTS didn't get on last night because we were still hunting for the bonus point, and Jordie was absolutely nailing it. And you guys all know that when you're on fire, you don't want the coach taking you off. And Jordie was on fire last night. Yes, he should be our 12 moving forward. Yes, you should play him in the Northern Tour, because if Richie Mo'unga is going to stay at 10 and Bodie at fullback, right, I think Richie Mo'unga would love to have someone like Jordie outside him so he can do a bit of dancing, but if it's not on, he can unload it to Jordie. And I loved his subtle angles, so running at the man and then hitting his inside shoulder. Those tough lines, Millsy, which are not easy to run. Got us over the advantage line, got us going forward, and I think that made a big difference to our attack.
Can I throw something out there, right? We've got an end of year tour coming up. Is it time now for us to go, you know what, through the course of this season, I've seen what I needed to see out of the majority of our players. Do we start thinking about a 4-match tour like you'd faced the last pool match against Uruguay, quarter semi-final? You go and play Japan on the way to the Northern Hemisphere, Wales, Scotland and then England to finish off. And do you think about those 3 test matches and go, you know what? The best combination that we can, fit and available, going forward in preparation for next year. Have we seen enough out of all of these players to know who our best guy is and what everyone can offer us?
I think you do. I think he has seen enough, albeit one or two. I think when you go to Northern now, I mean, he hasn't had the luxury of that. I think he needs to continue that momentum. He needs the confidence within the squad to be able to continue that momentum after what they sort of had. They've got 2 weeks off now, a real decent break. They go over there and they really hammer. If they hammer that sort of Northern Hemisphere tour and they come back with, 4 wins, I think you're going to the beach without that rock underneath your tail. But more importantly, on the back end of what they've been through, leading into the Rugby World Cup, I think that's important. If they come back from end of year tour and they've lost a couple, or even lost one, I think the doubts will start to creep back in, and I think that could be a real concern leading into Rugby World Cup next year. Well,
I've been saying it for the whole time. We don't have any tests left, so unfortunately, Ian Foster needs to be relatively selfish with his combinations. If we think Geordie's the man going forward, then he's just got to play as many test matches as he can there. So for me, Japan, it'd be something like, Perofeta, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Anton Lennon-Brown, Damien McKenzie at fullback, Sevu Reece. You're playing a mix of guys. Fanuku probably should come back.
Which is your widest squad at a Rugby World Cup, right? It's your widest squad.
Exactly. You're picking your 26 to 35. They get the Japan, but then really you've got to show them, besides injuries, you've got to play your test lineup. I mean, Retallick and Whitelock, they're just like a glove.